Throughout this election cycle, we saw that gaining the support of minority voters was a big priority for both presidential candidates. With growing numbers of minority groups in our country, voters of color have a bigger voice in this election than years before. Let's dive in to see how different groups see Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. Since dropping out, Biden has endorsed his VP, Kamala Harris, for the presidency. What do you think of that choice?
He could have done better, to be honest with you. Sorry. Maybe better.
You don't
Maybe
like
better.
Kamala?
Well, I really don't. 4 years, I really didn't saw her doing too much anything. Not getting involved in the country, like very, very little in the 4 years.
Shortly before Kamala Harris replaced Joe Biden as the Democratic Party's 2024 presidential candidate, several national polls and primary voting results indicated that Donald Trump had peeled away one of the party's most reliable voting groups, people of color. Polls during the Biden versus Trump era had Trump winning more black votes than any other GOP candidate in history. Other polls suggested that more Hispanic voters were supporting Trump too. The Biden-Harris switch-up also came at a time when Biden was losing the support of Arab American voters, a group that traditionally votes blue. But since Harris took over Biden's top spot on the Democratic ticket, things have been shaken up.
I've seen white guys for Kamala, I've seen Asians for Kamala, I've seen young dads for Kamala at this point. So I think every group, especially after being seen, because that's one thing she's really been going on her way to do, like, hey, I see you, I hear you, your vote matters. Oh, they're gonna come riding in, honey.
A recent Pew Research Center poll found that 77% of all black voters supported Harris, while 13% supported Trump. Among black voters under 50, Harris still led with 68% support, but 19% supported Trump. Black fraternities and sororities, known collectively as the Divine Nine, have been a source of strength for Harris throughout her campaign. She was a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority while attending Howard University, one of the nation's most prominent historically black universities. When we asked voters out and about in New York City, they had mixed responses about Trump and Harris.
I don't think she's going to make it because I can't speak for all black people because I'm not monolithic, but I think that she's not going to get the black vote, and she made it very apparent that she doesn't really care about the black vote. So I don't see how she's going to do without our vote.
I think it is a part of history at this point, like, oh my gosh, a woman. But I think we still have to pick out and think about her values, and she stands on them constantly. And she doesn't stand on her just being a woman or her having this ethnic background, even though, don't get me wrong, it's relatable.
I feel like Kamala hasn't done anything for me. She's not for the black, and I'm pro-black. No offense to the white anybody. I don't criticize nobody, but I just feel like for my community, she should have did better, A lot of people is voting for her. They don't really understand why they voted for her.
I just couldn't say where I'm leaning. I couldn't tell you.
In the 2020 election, Trump increased his gains among all groups of minority voters in comparison with 2016, capturing 1 in 4 voters of color nationally. Trump won the votes of nearly 1 in 5 black men and roughly 1/3 of the Asian American and Latino electorate. But Harris's ethnic background could give her a push among minority voters. If Harris wins, she would be the first black woman, the first Asian American, and the first South Asian American elected president. But don't forget, South Asian representation is on both sides of the presidential ticket. Trump's VP pick, J.D. Vance, is married to Usha Vance, and she would be America's first South Asian second lady if Trump wins. Texas has seen a roughly 63% growth in its Asian population since 2012 and has nearly 1.1 million eligible Asian American and Pacific Islander voters as of this year, according to APIA Vote. The fact that Harris is the daughter of immigrants may give some Hispanic voters a sense of representation, even though she's not Hispanic herself. More Hispanic voters think Harris represents their culture, with about 4 in 10 saying she is the candidate who better represents their background and culture, while about 1/4 say this about Trump. Overall, this poll shows that Hispanic voters are about equally likely to say they have a favorable view of Trump and Harris. But there is a gender divide among Hispanic voters on Harris. About 6 in 10 Hispanic women have a somewhat or very favorable opinion of Harris, compared to 45% of Hispanic men. And Hispanic men are more likely than Hispanic women to think Trump has the toughness that presidency requires. About half of Hispanic men say tough enough to be president describes Trump extremely or very well, compared to about 1/3 of Hispanic women. Hispanic men are also more likely than Hispanic women to say Trump is the candidate who represents their views on important policies. The economy is a high priority for Hispanic voters. Around 8 in 10 Hispanic voters say the economy is one of the most important issues this election. About 6 in 10 Hispanic voters also say that health care or crime are among the most important issues for their vote, while about half say that about gun policy. Slightly less than half say abortion or immigration are among the most important issues. Voto Latino said it registered more than 50,000 people in the 10 days after Biden withdrew on July 21st. By comparison, the nonprofit advocacy group registered 2,250 people in July 2016 and 25,150 in July 2020. More than half of this year's new registrations were voters ages 18 to 29. Most of the increase has come from important swing states like Arizona and North Carolina. But let's not forget about what's arguably the hardest fought of the battleground states, with 19 electoral votes, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania happens to have one of the fastest growing Hispanic communities in the country, in what is known as the 222 corridor, named after the highway that connects small cities and towns west and north of Philadelphia. According to U.S. Census Bureau figures, Pennsylvania's Latino-eligible voter population has more than doubled since 2000, from 206,000 to 620,000 in 2023. The population in cities like Allentown and Reading is now more than half Hispanic, with a majority being of Puerto Rican descent and a sizable portion of Dominican origin. Trump lost Pennsylvania to Democrat Joe Biden in 2020 after winning the state and the presidency in 2016. Nationwide, about 6 in 10 Hispanic voters supported Biden in 2020. In a presidential election that is expected to be very close, turning out voters of color has proven once again to be crucial to victory in many battleground states, driving home that every vote counts.
We've had a couple of bad presidents, and we've survived. So it's like a smooth ship never made a skilled sailor. I'm just gonna cross my fingers and put my vote in because everyone matters.
Do your own research as much as you can and vote for the right person, not because of the color of their skin or because of anything they've done in the past, what they can do to help us in the future.
In New York, I'm Haley Bianco. Stay tuned for continued coverage of Decision 24 on Salem News Channel.